Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to look into today is the strange circumstances surrounding the deaths of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. They were two Dutch students who went missing whilst hiking in the Panama forest, and they would never be seen alive again. Now, of course, lots of people go missing in the wilderness. Even the most experienced of hikers can go out there and get injured, and bad things can happen out there, and maybe a lot of people potentially lose their lives because of that. But normally when they're found, what happened to them is quite obvious, like they've fallen off a cliff or something. You can normally say like for certain what happened to them, but the circumstances around these two women is thought to be really confusing, and it has brought a lot of speculation over the deaths over the years. You'll find out why as we go through it, but even at 7 years later, nobody really knows truly what happened to them. Obviously, there's a lot of theories and thoughts on it, which I will get into later on. So I would really like to know your opinions on this one and what you believe happened to the girls. Because obviously, going through this case, I've formulated my own opinion of it. And I'd just like to hear yours too. See what you guys believe. This case was a suggested case, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have. And if you have any more, let me know. Kris Kremers was born on the 9th of August in 1992, and she was 21 years old at the time of her death. She was described as being a very responsible girl, being very creative, and she had just completed her studies in cultural social education, specialising in art education. As I said, she was very creative, she loved that kind of thing. Lisanne Froon was born on the 24th of September in 1991, and she was 22 years old at the time of her death. She'd recently graduated with a degree in applied science and was described as being very intelligent and like really passionate about everything. She'd also previously played volleyball, so she really enjoyed that sport too. Lisanne and Kris actually lived together, so Kris had just convinced her to move into her dorm. The two had met and become friends through their job. They worked at this restaurant in Amersfoort. As their gap year was kind of approaching, they decided that they wanted to go on a trip to Panama. It was Kris's idea. I believe she had previously been to South America or something like that with her family, and she thought that it might be a good idea to go there and, just have a good time for the gap year. They saved for almost a year for this trip because they really wanted to go, and so they just saved everything they could to enable them to. It was kind of their reward for finishing their degrees, and whilst they were there, they weren't just gonna go and enjoy themselves, they were gonna do some good as well. They were planning on learning some Spanish and obviously sightsee. They loved backpacking, they loved swimming, so there was going to be opportunities to do all that and see the beautiful country. But they also had planned to give back to the community there and work in a local school. So they weren't just going out there for having fun, they wanted to help to teach children there too, which is really admirable and such a nice thing to do. On the 15th of March in 2014, the girls finally arrived at Costa Rica from obviously their home in Amsterdam. They had planned to stay there for 6 weeks, and for the first 2 weeks they stayed in Ilsa Colon, where they learned a little bit of Spanish at a Spanish school. And also obviously they were having fun, enjoying themselves, and just doing whatever they wanted to do while they were there. They were supposed to be enjoying themselves. Now, they'd actually arrived a little early for the school, so they arrived on the 29th, and they were turned away because the school had sent them an email saying that they couldn't accommodate them until the week after, I believe, so it delayed their plans by a week, and the girls were really disappointed by that, and I can't blame them. They'd planned this for ages, they were looking forward to teaching the kids, and it got them really fed up about that. So they move on to the town of Biquet, where they're going to be living with a host family. This host family was going to host them for the next month while they were volunteering at the school. The host's name was Miriam Guerrera, and she frequently did this. She frequently hosted students, international students. She had like a separate house that was attached, and it had a separate door, so it was kind of perfect for that sort of thing. So no one's gonna be interfering with anyone. It's like they've got their own place, and they can just stay there for as long as they needed to. So the girls filled their time waiting to obviously teach at this school. They had hiked up the close by volcano. They had taken a tour of a nearby coffee plantation. But they were kind of running low on ideas at this point on what they wanted to do next. On the 1st of April in 2014, the girls spend the morning trying to plan what they're going to do. And they decide that eventually that they're going to hike up the Pianista Trail. It was a beautiful forest trail that's been described as like this stunning rainforest with these beautiful views. And it was also a popular place for dog walkers. Now, it was speculation this. It has never actually been confirmed, I believe. But some sources say that they took their host Miriam's dog Blue with them, you know, to go for a walk. Others say that they didn't. The girls wrote on their Facebook that day that they were gonna go on a walk around the city, and Kris actually sent her boyfriend a text saying that she was gonna go for a hike. So obviously they changed their plans at some point. People think it's really strange that the girls went on a hike because they actually had a tour guide booked for the next day to do that very hike, and yet they went the day before. We don't know why they did that. Some of the details around this case are really, really weird and very strange because this trail was close to town, so a taxi driver came forward to say that he dropped the girls off at the trailhead at around 1:30 p.m. However, photos that were later found on one of the girls' cameras and on both of their phones suggested that their hike had actually begun at 11 a.m, which is weird, right? The only thing that, you know, I can think of is that the taxi driver was mistaken about the time. I don't know. From what I could find of the trail, it wasn't an extremely difficult one if you stayed on the track, like the main track. There was kind of another trail that if you carried on, it got more dangerous. Even some experienced locals wouldn't go that far. So if you followed the trail signs and things and turned back when it told you to, then you'd be fine because it was really well signposted. The girls, as you can see from the pictures, were dressed in like vest tops, in shorts. They had a backpack which was small. It didn't really have many supplies in it, which I'll get into later. I'll obviously talk about the backpack in a little bit, but it just went to show that they were planning on not going out for very long. So maybe a couple of hours and that was it, and then come back. So the girls are on this hike, and then again, the reports are varied here because some state that their host was alerted to them missing when her dog Blue came back and the girls weren't with them. Again, that is if they took the dog. Other sources say that they didn't take the dog. So obviously Miriam was alerted to them missing when they just didn't come back. And she grew concerned over that. Apparently she went out to look for them, but couldn't find them and gave them the benefit of the doubt. They were young girls. They were enjoying themselves. Maybe they were just having fun and decided to stay out a bit longer. The 2nd of April comes round and Lisanne and Kris have the appointment with a tour guide. His name was Falicino and he was due to come at 8 o'clock. He was there to help them go around the trails safely, but again, they didn't use him. So he's there, he turns up at the house that was hosting the girls and he's told that they're not there. The guide then contacted the Spanish school that they were attending to see whether they knew anything, whether they were there, and they didn't. And eventually that school were the one that contacted their parents, I believe, and they eventually reported them missing to the police. Kris and Lisanne would keep in regular contact with the family even while they were out travelling, even while they were out busy and doing things. They were sending pictures home, sending messages home and how they were doing and what they were seeing and how they were getting on. So it wasn't like the girls to not respond to their messages and just not even text them in the first place. It took a couple of days before they were even looked for. So on the 3rd of April, 2 days after the girls had had any contact with anybody, a search group was put together and they began to look for the girls. Local residents, farmers, you know, were all looking for them on the trail. I believe that there was an aerial search done. However, no matter how much searching they did, they just couldn't find anything. I mean, the forest is dense, it is vast. It's going to be pretty hard to find people in that. They also didn't find any belongings of the girls or anything, which just made it all the more harder. They didn't know where to look. They didn't know how far they'd gone. They didn't know whether they'd gone off the trail. They just didn't have a clue and they didn't find anything. On the 6th of April, the parents of the girls arrived in Panama with these detectives that they had enlisted from the Netherlands. They wanted them to work together with the local authorities to try and find their children. This is when a full-scale search began of the forest, and the search would last for the next 10 days. They put out a $30,000 reward for any information on them. But after 10 days, they didn't find anything. They found no indication as to where the girls had gone, nothing that belonged to them, literally nothing. They found nothing and the girls were just gone. 10 weeks passed by now. And a local woman goes into the police station and tells them about this backpack she's found, this blue backpack. She found it in a rice paddy by a riverbank, I believe stuck kind of between a rock and the riverbed, near her village of Alto Romero. That was around 5 miles, I believe, from where the girls were last known to be, and around 10 miles from where they were staying at that house, Miriam's house. She told investigators that she was actually in the same spot the day before and she hadn't seen the backpack. So that really made them believe that it had washed up down the river like the night before. So she'd gone in the morning and it wasn't there, and then it washed down at the night, and then the next morning when she came, it was there. So they get there. You expect this backpack, having been washed down the river, to be soaking wet and manky, but guess what? It wasn't. They identified it as Lisanne's backpack, and it was clean, it was dry, it was like it was brand new. It had been actually raining quite heavily for weeks, which was really weird. Why was this backpack looking like it were brand new if it's been out in the elements for at least 70 days? The forest was humid, it had also been raining. It's gonna get dirty, it's gonna get wet, but it wasn't. It didn't really make much sense. Inside the backpack, they found $83 in cash. They found Lisanne's passport, Kris's medical card, a digital camera, a small water bottle, 2 bras, both of the women's phones, and 2 pairs of glasses. And they were all packed away neatly. A lot of speculation has come around the bras, like some people have stated that they would never take the bras off if they were lost in the wilderness. Why would they even be thinking about that? Others, if they chafed or something like that, that would be one of the first things that you take off. So I don't really know. Maybe they were spur. Maybe they had bras on and they packed them just in case they found somewhere to swim and they wanted a change of a bra. I don't know. The bag didn't have like essential items that were known to the girls have taken. So they had a compass, they had a solar power bank and a knife, and they weren't in this bag. They also didn't find a house key, which is strange. Like, the first thing that you do if you're going out on a hike, you take your house key, of course, because otherwise how are you going to get back in? But you put it in your bag so that you know it's safe, so that you're not going to lose it. And yeah, it wasn't there. It's weird. So police charged the phones and they downloaded the photos off the camera, and what they found on there would just confuse people all the more. Police looked up the phone records and they found that, you know, just hours after they had actually begun their hike, this was around 4:39 p.m. at this point, somebody tried to call 112. And then just 12 minutes later, they tried 911, which is the emergency number for that area. This was done from Kris's phone. They unfortunately couldn't get reception, so these calls never went through. Data taken from the phones then show that both phones were turned off for more than 14 hours. From then onwards, there were a lot more phone calls tried to be made to emergency services. Unfortunately, none of them connected due to the signal. They didn't have any signal. I do believe that one of them connected for like 1 millisecond, but just cut straight out because they lost signal again. And that was the only one that made a connection. There was also a lot of signal checks that they did to obviously see whether, as they were moving, whether they could get any signal. I'm going to put up a running chart to give you the full details of this. I have gotten this information from a website which I have credited. You know, I haven't done this information myself. I found it off a website and I've put the link in the document as you've seen it, and all this information was gotten from them. But I just wanted to give you a really detailed look into what they found on the phones because it's really, really interesting. As you can see, Lisanne's phone appears to have died. Kris's was still being used. A strange, chilling aspect of this was that after the 5th of April, the pin on Kris's phone was either entered incorrectly or not entered at all. This makes people believe that someone other than Kris was using the phone. Okay, you may be thinking at this point, obviously, something happened to Kris, and maybe Lisanne was trying to get into a phone. That seems highly possible, right? Will phones have an emergency call feature that allows you to ring them no matter whether you have the PIN? You can even call without a SIM, and that was a feature back in 2014 too. So why, if you call in emergency services, do you need to enter the PIN to unlock the phone? Investigators concluded it was unlikely to be Lisanne. So if not her, then who? A lot of people go on about the PIN on the phone, but judging off the information off this website that I found, they have stated that maybe the PIN wasn't entered at all. So if you're going to turn the phone on to check if you've got a signal, but you don't want to drain too much battery, right? So you've tried numerous times to call emergency services, none of them have gone through because you've not had signal. You want to conserve the battery for as long as possible because that may be your lifeline, that may be your only way to get out of there. And so you turn it on, you see if it's got signal, it has none, so you turn it back off again. There's no need to enter the PIN if you're not trying to get in the phone other than check whether it's got signal and whether it is worth wasting the battery that you already have. So that could clear up the whole PIN situation. I don't know whether it was entered incorrectly or whether it just wasn't entered at all, and that is what they're trying to say. And it makes sense, it really does. So back to the camera, it was a Canon PowerShot XS270HS, which is obviously a digital camera, and they found 133 photos contained within it. The first lot of photos were just normal, the two women having fun, enjoying themselves, smiling, you know, posing beautiful pictures, there's beautiful landscape, just normal things. With the camera being digital, it left timestamps on the photos, they had the date and time that they were taken, and the photos of them all smiling and happy were all taken before 1:30 p.m. Instead of taking these photos and turning back, like they got to the end of the trail, and instead of turning back like the signs advise you to do, it seems that they potentially carried on. It's thought that they had read somewhere that there were a few waterfalls over the summit, and so they wanted to take pictures of those, possibly. The last really happy smiley photo was taken on the 1st of April at 2 p.m. The next ones, people have speculated, kind of look like they're a bit more strained, like their features, well, they're not super happy like they was before, as you can see in them. People have said that the demeanour looks different and that they look strained, they don't look as happy as they were. And then shortly after these, they do begin to make their emergency service calls. So whether at that point they're figuring that they're lost and they don't know where they're going and they don't know how to get back, or, as some people believe, whether they're being followed at that point and they're starting to get worried, who knows? And then obviously when they realise they try to call emergency services. We just don't know. One of the main strange aspects of this case is that in the middle of these photos, one photo was deleted. So the photos begin at $4.99. Obviously the next one is $500, after that $501, and it carries on like that. Image 509 was missing and it was unrecoverable. It had been deleted, but the thing is with it being unrecoverable, normally when you delete a picture on a camera or on a phone, whatever, there's like a ghost residue of it where people can still recover that. So it's still there essentially, you can't see it, but it's like a residue and you can then recover it from that. However, even the residue, whatever it's called, I'm not sure what it's actually called, but I'm just going to call it that for now. So even the residue of that photo was gone. I don't know much about anything like that, but from what I've read, to do that you'd have to plug it into a PC to fully get rid of it, and obviously they were out in the wilderness, then they don't have a PC to plug it into, so there's a lot of speculation about that photo. Some people have said that they maybe just deleted it, but if they're out in the wilderness, so this is after probably they've rung for emergency services, they're worried, they're scared, why would you be deleting photos? You just wouldn't. Other people have speculated that maybe somebody was following them and they deleted that photo because it was of them. It might not seem that odd really, but after what the police found next, it shows that something went seriously wrong, because the next lot of photos were taken on the 8th of April. So this is 7 days later. Following 90 photos after this deleted photo were actually taken between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. and they were taken in the night time, so it's pitch black. It looks like they're deep in the jungle at this point. Some are of paths, some are seemingly of the sky, but many of what appears to be nothing, really. People have speculated that they were either being stalked and so tried to catch a glimpse of them, or that they were simply trying to light their way so that they could see. It appears that the pictures were taken while stood still, so they're not blurry or anything, or they're not moving. And nobody really knows the orientation of it. If that was the case though, if you know, you're taking them so that you can see, surely in the dead of night a huge flash of a camera would blind you rather than allow you to see. Saying that though, you've then got the picture in front of you. So you're taking a picture so that you don't go falling off a cliff or something like that. It gives you you've then got it on the camera, and it gives you an idea of, you know, your surroundings. So even though maybe the flash did blind you, you've then got that picture to look at anyway. One of the photos is of the back of Kris's head. And again, many people believe many different things about that. Some say that she was actually deceased at the time that that was taken. I personally do not believe that, because I've looked extensively at this photo. Some people have said that it has blood on it. I can't see that anywhere. To me, at least, it looks like she's stood up. You can see a bit of sort of the ridge of her clothing. You can see it looks to me like the back of her neck. And the way that her hair falls, it just looks like she stood up, not like she's, you know, on the ground deceased. Doesn't look like that at all, the way that her hair is. Personally, if you are taking pictures to try and light your way, or to try and see your surroundings, and you've got your friend directly in front of you, you cannot see your own hand in front of your own face, because it is that dark, that pitch black, which it would have been. And Lisanne takes a snap, trying to light the way, trying to see where she's going, and she didn't actually realise how close Kris was. So the picture is of the back of her head, and it's literally like, oh my god, I didn't realise you were there because I couldn't see you, kind of thing. That's what I personally think. I know a lot of other people don't think that. It's just my theory. The photos are kind of creepy and eerie. It's just like with the angles that they were taken, the terrain, people don't even know whether it's up or down. Like, you literally can't tell. They've had experts going out, you know, trying to find these areas, and even they've struggled to find the images in these photos of, you know, where they actually were. And it's just really chilling, especially since those were the girls' last moments. Whilst researching this case, I found that there was a theory that Kris had actually died first, and that Lisanne was using her phone, and that was why the pins were entered incorrectly. But if Kris was alive in the photo taken on the 8th, then that can't possibly be true, because this was taken 2 days after her phone, her phone was stopped being used, the pins were entered incorrectly. So that doesn't really tie into me. I believe that the phone was being used literally to check signal, and that is it. So therefore a pin wasn't even entered, and they just turned it back off again. Searches were conducted along the riverbank and things close by to where the backpack was found. And from there they actually found Kris's denim shorts neatly folded and placed on a rock. They were also zipped up. As they continued to search, they found a boot from each of the girls. By the 19th of June in 2014, they had found all that they were ever going to find of Kris and Lisanne. 33 bones in total were discovered scattered along the riverbed, and from what I could find, they were quite a distance away, some of them, like all down the riverbed. They would be sent for forensic testing, and it would be confirmed that these were in fact the bones of Kris and Lisanne. However, you know, not all of them were found, only 33 between the two were found. The most chilling find was Lisanne's left foot, which was still in her hiking boot, and it was still all tied up. It was said that the cut that severed the ankle was very clean, according to investigators, and due to the lack of blood, most likely happened post-mortem. Nearby the boot, a piece of her skin was found rolled into a ball, which is just grim, and I don't get it. I don't get how that could have happened. Like, why was there a ball of skin there? They found half of Kris's pelvic bone, and all of Kris's bones had been picked clean, like there was no flesh on them whatsoever, and they'd all been bleached. Some say that they were bleached by the sun, others have different theories on it. Many experts do believe that Lisanne and Kris's body would not have decomposed so quickly, with Lisanne's body showing less decomposition than Kris's, because her bones still had bits of skin on it, whereas Kris's had nothing. None of the remains provided any information as to what happened to them. Because they were unable to recover, you know, like large amounts of any of the girls, forensic pathologists were unable to determine a cause or manner of death. The official story of their deaths was that they fell from a monkey bridge during their hike. A monkey bridge is like this really flimsy looking bridge. It's got these 3 wires across it, and let me tell you, they don't look safe at all. And you could very easily fall from them. There was not ever any evidence that the girls ever made it that far though. And the police since kind of altered their story and said that maybe Kris fell from the bridge, or that she got injured whilst trying to climb the wall of the gully that they had taken photos of. So say that's true. Say that mid-afternoon on the 1st of April, Kris was injured but managed to hold on until the 5th or 6th. Maybe she had passed away or went into a coma by the 8th of April, being disorientated, no water, no food, scared out of her mind. Her friend had just possibly died. She then took a photo of Kris and the surrounding areas so that she could go and try and find some help, go and lead them back to her body once she got out. Maybe she goes out there hoping to get reception, hoping to get some help, and then she unfortunately dies herself. It was all just a simple hiking accident when the girls passed the safe area of the hike and went on into the Panama jungle. Locals have said though that the trails were a network of well-marked trails and said that it would be pretty difficult to get lost on them. People that knew the girls said that they would have never ever crossed a dangerous monkey bridge without anyone else there. You have to admit there's some very strange aspects to this case. The photos, for instance. Okay, maybe she was trying to light away. Maybe she was just disorientated and was just snapping pictures of everything. And the one of Kris's head where people think she's deceased at that point, either she was, or it was like I said, that she was just too close and she didn't realise and was like almost pretty much bumping into it. A camera as well makes things sometimes look closer than they are, so could have been that. Also, interestingly, if you go with the theory that maybe Kris died and then Lisanne went off on her own to go and try and find some help, the bones of the girls were found together. So does that go to show that they were both alive around about the same time, or that one passed away and then the other stayed and didn't actually go venturing out to try and find help? Maybe one died first and then the other just didn't have enough energy to go out and they unfortunately died too, in the same area. We've also seen a lot of suspicion around the bleaching of the bones. Most people have said that the sun wouldn't have been able to bleach the bones like that in such kind of a short period of time, like it would have taken a lot longer. I've also seen that lime is sometimes used in forests to help them to grow and things like that, and maybe that could explain as to why the bones were bleached. I don't know whether there was lime in the soil or not. Some also question how they got that far in the first place. They were 5 miles out from the trail, but then other people believe that they were just following the river, because a lot of people when they get lost, they tend to follow things like that so that they have a landmark, so that they have a clear route to go on because they don't know where they're going. Another theory was that the girls did in fact get lost on this trail, but that they were then killed by someone. The photo that was taken that was deleted was maybe one taken of their killer. That photo is kind of the bridge between the last daytime photo and the first nighttime photo. So a lot of people believe that it may be the key, but obviously we will never know because it's gone forever. So some people do believe that maybe that the killer, if there was a killer, that picture had them in and they deleted it because of that. They moved their body to the area that we were found in because they didn't think that they would search that area, because they didn't think the girls would have gotten that far. And that was why the bag is dry and clean, because it wasn't actually in the river at all, and the killer just dumped it there, like probably shortly before it was found or something like that. That maybe they were the one, this person was the one using the phone, and that was why the pins were entered incorrectly, or again, if they were entered incorrectly. And then they were put in the bag and put next to the bodies, to throw people off, throw investigators off. Other people believe that the girls died at the hand of a serial killer that forced them off the trail. For people that believe the theory of foul play was somehow involved in their death, the theories range from the girls being kidnapped by locals, being murdered by a tour guide, killed by a gang, or even captured and killed by cannibals. So yeah, there are a lot of theories out there, and that's probably not even scratching the surface. There's probably more. The main thing that gets me is the bag being dry. I honestly believe that this was like a tragic accident, like a hiking accident gone wrong, but after the bag out there weeks, it would have got wet and dirty, so I don't really get that at all. Also, the photo that was erased I found really, really strange. Again, how had the residue of this photo gone completely so that it was unrecoverable without being, used on a computer? I don't know whether in a camera, if it starts to fill up, I'd like to know how full the memory card was, because if the camera starts to fill up, then maybe it erased that photo because of that. But would it really erase 509? Would it start from the beginning? Does it just erase randomly? I don't know. I would have thought it would have erased the first one, not 509, which is a few photos in. I just feel like that photo was a bit sketchy, really. Another point for me was say you're stuck in the jungle, you are starving, you are thirsty, you are frightened to death, you don't have a clue where you are, and for days you've been in there now wandering around, you're lost, you keep trying to call for help, but you know, you can't get through. Would you be navigating around at nighttime? That's what really got me. Like, surely you'd wait till daytime to be walking around where you can actually see. You've got a better chance. You might as well rest at night. Yes, okay, maybe there's some animals there that could potentially attack you. Climb a tree, do something. I wouldn't be walking around in the jungle in the middle of the night flashing a camera to light my way so that I could see. Definitely not. The only reason I could think about that was that maybe one of them was injured or something and they felt like they had to go and get help. But in my eyes, that picture of Kris's head, she's still alive at that point, I believe, so that didn't really make much sense to me. I don't know, I'm just speculating. It's just, this case has really boggled my brain. Really boggled my brain. In my eyes, I've come up with a lot of, and found, not only my assumptions, a lot of sort of reasons as to why that happened or whatever. But there's still some things that I just can't even think of a way to explain. Another possible thing is that maybe they were just really disorientated and lack of food, lack of water, stress, terrified. Maybe they were just wandering around in the night snapping photos of everything, not really knowing what they were doing. I don't know. Personally, researching this case, as I've said, I do believe that it was a tragic accident. The girls were only prepared for a short hike. They ventured a bit too far off the trail. They probably took a wrong turn. It's quite easy to get lost when it's not signposted, when you don't have a clue where you are. They weren't able to get signal, water was running low, food was scarce, and in the end they unfortunately lost their lives. Although obviously I think the points mentioned before were strange and I stick by that, I do still think more accidental. Regardless, no matter the reason behind their deaths, whether it was foul play or whether it was just a freak accident, the last days paint a chilling and terrifying picture. They were alone in the wilderness, no real supplies, terrified, probably knowing that they were going to die out there. They turned on the phone to try and get signal. They tried to call for emergency services, no luck. They turned the phone off to, you know, contain battery. They turn it back on again, check for signal, no signal. They just keep turning it off and on to try and conserve the battery because that is the thing that could save them. And the more they turn it on and the more that they use it, must have been like a stab of fear in their gut, because the more they do that, the more it drains. And obviously one of the phones did die, so then that left them with only one, and they seem to be more conservative with that, with the battery. Maybe they were watching as themselves or the friend just gets worse, and seemingly there is no help coming. Nobody knows where they are. It must have been absolutely horrific. It was like a slow torture and torment until unfortunately they passed away. And I can't even imagine that. It just completely breaks my heart that these poor two women who had their whole lives ahead of them lost their lives whilst out hiking, and their last moments just must have been so terrifying. I don't even like to imagine what was going through their mind, and it's just awful. But yeah, that is the end of the case. So please, please, please let me know your thoughts and theories on this, because again, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of people's theories. If you agree with mine, disagree with mine, please let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think on this, because obviously that is just my opinion on it being sort of accidental and just unfortunate that they lost their life during hiking. Give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to my channel for similar content. I also have a Patreon for anyone that's interested. Link is in the description. But anyway guys, that's all I have today on the case of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.